Hello everyone, if you're new to Blender, you might be interested in this one. I'm going to show you how you can easily create a simple scene like this, and of course, I will provide all the necessary assets for you to follow along. It's really a beginner tutorial, so I will try to explain stuff as much as possible without being too boring. So let's start just after this quick shout out. The Ride is my Blender car animation course created for beginners and intermediate users who want to get into car animation. Now you get 85 videos and 13 hours of training. And of course, everything is included. The cars, the assets, the add-ons, everything you need to follow along. You will also get my personal help on a private channel on Discord in case you're stuck or you need advice. Okay, so first in Blender, let's import our car. I will use a beautiful Mercedes X-Class, but if you don't have a car to use, you can download my C63 AMG for free. The link will be in the description. It's a professional 3D model already rigged, so ready for animation. To import the car in Blender, you click on File, Append. You go where you have the files of your car. For me, for example, it's here, Mercedes. So you double click on the file, the blend file, and you go in Object. You press A to select everything and append. And now you have the car in your scene. We can get rid of this default cube. And just to have some clarity, let's hide all the objects starting with WGT. So you select one object and Shift and you select the other part and H to hide. Great, we have our car in our scene. Before I forget, now is a good time to save our files. So Ctrl and S. You select the name and save Blender file. For the ground, I will show you two different ways to handle the materials. You can download free textures on polyheaven.com. The link will be in the description. You come here in Assets and Textures. For example, you search for asphalt. You select one, you select the resolution, and you download it. An important information to note is this one. This is the default size the material will cover. Once you have the material on your hard drive, you can unzip it and you will have something like that. And we will use the files that are in textures. Now let me show you how to apply this material in Blender. First, we have to activate a Node Wrangler. This is an add-on that will help our life. So you go in Add-ons and you search for Wrangler, Node Wrangler, and you just tick this checkbox. Node Wrangler is there by default. You have nothing to install. You just have to activate it. We add the plane for the ground. So Shift A, Mesh and Plane. Let me move it around here. You press N to have this information here, the size of the plane. As I told you, you check the information you need. So it's 2 meters wide. And here, actually, our plane is already 2 meters wide. So that's perfect. Let's go now in shading. You select the plane. You click New to create a new material for this plane. You select the principal BSDF and you press Ctrl, Shift and T. You search for the textures you just downloaded. You select all the files. And you press this button, so Node Wrangler will do all the connection for you, and you will have the material already applied on the plane. Yeah, things are very easy with this add-on. And now the second way to add material, and this is how I like to do it, I use the Polygon add-on. So here on the website Polygon, you have a Blender add-on which is free. And here you have free textures that you can use with the add-on. And the same way, let me show you how to use it. So I will create a plane, mesh and plane. Concerning the Blender add-on, you just download it and you will have a zip file. And to install it in Blender, you go in Edit, Preferences, Add-ons. You click here and install from disk. Then you search for the zip file you have downloaded and you press install from disk. This is just an example, of course. And normally you will have the add-on like this and you just activate the checkbox if it's not already the case. So here you will have the Polygon add-on. Let me go on my assets. For this project, I selected this one, the City Street 1002, but you can select another one, a free one. That's perfectly fine. And let me check online the size. So it's 150 by 150. So I will change that in Blender. So in Blender, in Item, so 1.5 and 1.5. And you select the object. Let me go back here. And you just click on apply. If I go in material preview mode, now you can see that we have the material applied. And for the ground, it's a little bit too small. So let's raise it. Maybe if I put 15, this is multiplied by 10. So if I put 30, that will be multiplied by 20. It means that you multiplied the surface by 20. It means that you have to do the same for the scale of the texture. So we go back in shading. And here, with this selected, you have a general scale here, and you multiply that by 20. And now you have a correct scale. It's okay if you have a repetition. We don't need to worry about that for this example because we won't really see those repetitions once the project is over. So yeah, that's it for the ground. Now let's choose our framing so we can start to fill the scene. We are going to reorganize the windows. This way it will be easier to check the camera in real time. You click on this corner and you drag the window like this, and we do it again here. We know that the camera will be in front of the car. So here on the viewport, you move the camera in front of the car and you press Ctrl Alt and 0 to fix the camera view like this. And you press 0 again to go out of the camera view. And let's put the camera view here, okay, because this is where we want the camera view to be. And Ctrl middle mouse button, I move it up to zoom here. I will remove everything to have a clean view of the camera. So N and the T to hide the tools, and I also hide those gizmos. Now I want to move the camera view. I want to reframe my shot. So to do that, you press N here, you go in view, and you tick camera to view. Or you use a shortcut like me. I use this shortcut to activate or deactivate the camera to view. And to set a shortcut, it's a right click, and you will have here the option to set the shortcut. Okay, so from there, we do have a window here dedicated to the camera view. And let me go back in camera view. I use my shortcut, and just a rough position like this is okay for now. And here maybe we want to have the shader editor for now. For the camera setting, you click on the camera, and let's do that now. We want a wide view, but not too wide, so 35 will be okay for this. And the clip end, you want to change it to 5,000 meters because we want to be sure to see everything in the scene. For the viewport display, I raise the passport out to 1 to have this black border around the camera. Of course, you activate the depth of field, and for the focus, let's create it. So Shift A, you go in empty, plane axis. So it's here. Let's rename it focus or focus point. It's up to you. And now you go back in the camera, and here for the depth of field, the focus object, you select the focus object we just created. Let me put it in the right position somewhere around here. Let's go back in the camera settings. For the f-stop, we want some blurry background, so 1 and blades 5. Okay, that's it for the camera settings. I ended up placing my car around here and the camera around here. You can check the camera and car positions if you want. So for the car, is this position and rotation. And for the camera is this position and rotation. So you don't have to copy exactly what I did, but this is the general idea of the position I wanted to start with. When you're happy, you go to frame 1, you select your camera, and with the mouse on the viewport, you press I on your keyboard. That will insert a keyframe for your camera position and rotation. And we do that to secure your camera position in case you move it accidentally. Here I can move my camera everywhere, but when I come back to frame 1, it has our position recorded. Now we need to view our final image, so you go in Render here, and be sure to use Cycles. In the Output tab, change the resolution X and Y for 1920 by 817 because we want an image with a cinematic ratio. From there, you come on your camera window and you click here to check the render view. If it's too slow for you, you can come back in a render and change the max samples to something like 256 or 128 according to the power of your machine. And we go in render because we want to check the lights. Okay, we want to deal with the lights. So first thing, we're going to get rid of this gray atmosphere. There is no light actually in our scene, so it should be all black. For that, you click on the World tab, and here in Strength, you change it to 0. And now our scene is more realistic because there is no light, only maybe the headlights of your car. For the first light, we're going to add Shift A, Mesh and Plane. Let's make it 4 by 4. With the plane selected, here in this window, you go in the shader editor and you press new to add a new material. Base color white is okay. Then in emission, white as well, but for the strength, let's go for 100. Wow, now we have some lights. Let's move it up. And this is where I placed my light. The idea is to have like a moonlight coming from this side. And here you have the exact position and rotation of my lights if you want to copy that. Before we add the street lamps, let's add some puddles on the ground. I think it will be better for us to appreciate the effect of the lights on our scene. And because I need some space to do that, let's go in shading. You select the ground. So for the puddles, Shift A, and we add a geometry node, then a noise texture. So noise texture. You plug the position to the vector, a color ramp. Here, fact to fact. And from there, if we put the color to the surface, if you unplug the other one, you will see those blacks area on the ground. And those patches are created by this noise texture. And you can play with the color ramp to accentuate the effect. And you can do the same for the scale and the detail. This was just to show you the effects of this noise texture. Now let's apply everything to our actual textures. Let's move this one here and I will plug back the BSDF to the surface. Shift A, mix color. And instead of mix, you select multiply. You plug this before the base color. Here, you move it to a gray color, something like that. Then from the color ramp, you connect the color to the factor. Here. Let's do the same for the roughness. So you select this node, Control and C and Control and V to copy and paste. We connect the color of the color ramp to the factor as well. And this time we don't need gray, we need black. One more copy for the normal map. So here you select the node, Control C and Control V. You place it before the normal map. And we don't need multiply this time, but we need mix. Shift A, you search for normal map, okay, and you plug this empty normal map to the B. And like the other ones, we're going to connect the color to the factor, like that. And now it's all about playing with those different values and the color ramp. For the color ramp, for the black part, I had this position, and this is the position for my white part. For the scale, I've selected 0.7, and for the details, 7.9. That's it. Now, if you go back in the layout, here we have some cool puddles on the ground. Okay, now for the street lamps, let me show you where I added my first street lamps. So it was around here. Let me hide those. Okay, so I placed the street lamps just behind the car on this side. This street lamp is coming with a point light, which is 300 watts, and the color is orange. If you don't know how to add a light in Blender, just press Shift A. And here in light, you have the choice between different lights. I did choose the point light, as I told you. Let me show you where is this light. Okay, this light is here. Okay, so 300 and the color orange, something like that. Let me delete this because in this file, let me show you in this file, I will give you the street lamps and the barrier if you want to follow along. And by the way, those decorations are coming from my city pack. The link will be in the description. And I ended up copying these street lamps 3 times. So here and here and here with the same lights. And if you want to copy the same object, please use Alt-D because it will consume less resources. And then for the lights, I added this light. So this is a point light at 500 watt. Let me show you the effect here. Let me raise this so we'll have a better view. So this light, I will turn it on. Boom. You have this light here to light the front of the car, and this is with the light and this is without the light. Okay, and we can justify the presence of this light because they are street lamps. So it might be a street lamp that is here, which is lighting this side of the car. This way, we have the moonlight coming from there, and then street lamps lighting the car from there. Okay, that's it for the lights. It was pretty simple. Now we can start to decorate the scene. Let's start with the ground. I added a lot of different patches. So here, let me activate the patches. You see the difference. So this is with the patches and this is without the patches. So we can see a lot of bumps and different rocks on the ground. And the idea is to avoid having a perfect ground like this. We absolutely want a ground with some crackers and rocks around. So it's very simple for the patches. Let me show you one. So this is one patch. And how do you get them? Well, here you go, for example, on Sketchfab. And this is a patches. This is what I call a patch. And this one is free. So you can download it for free. And the idea is just to copy paste this patch on the scene, and you just raise it until you have, those little things appearing on the ground. Maybe it's too much there. I will lower it. And for the material of those patches, you just select the same material as for the ground. You click on the patch and you select the material of the ground. So everything will have the same material. And I did add a lot of them everywhere. Let me show you that. So here, all around, to have a maximum of irregularities everywhere. Okay, so this is for the patches on the ground. Then I added 2 barriers in front of the camera. Like the street lamps, again, those barriers are going to be in the file you can download for free. But for those barriers, I did cheat a little bit because I didn't want this part of the barrier. So I did sink it in the ground. And I added those barriers because I wanted some elements in the foreground. Then I added a bunch of stuff on the ground, like boxes, a lot of waste. You can find those on Sketchfab for free. But really, just add everything you find online on the ground. And by the way, those are coming from my city pack as well. And I will put here an example so you can play with it to decorate your floor. The idea is really to have a messy floor, a lot of things of the floor to have like a natural look. I added some barriers here as well. And for this barrier, instead of copying it several times, I just use an array and with a count of 58. But of course, you don't have to do exactly like me. Then I added a bunch of people. Let me activate the people. Yep. And I didn't want to have only static people. So I decided to import some people from Mixamo. Let me show you how I did that. For the people, you go in mixamo.com. So it's a website where you can download people and animation for them. And it's free. So first you select a character. For example, let me select this girl. Then you go in animations. I will search for talking. Here, this one. She's talking on the phone and she's walking, so it's cool. I like this. And to download this animation, you click on download here. You select the FPS you need. So for me, it's 24 with skin, FBX, and you click on download. In Blender, you click on file, import, FBX, and you click on the file you have downloaded from Mixamo. Import FBX, and you will have the character in your scene. And the thing is, this character has many polygons for nothing because we don't need that many polygons. And I think it's a really important part to simplify the character because we don't need those details. So what you can do, you can select a part of the character. You come here in modifier, you add modifier, you search for decimate. And here you can see it has at the moment nearly 10,000 polygons, but we don't need that. We only need 10% of this, so 0.1 for the ratio. And now we only have 1,700 polygons, but you don't really see the difference. And you do the same for all the different parts of the character. So here decimate 0.1, and maybe same for the shoes. And for the eyes, why not? So decimate 0.1, so instead of 400 we only have 75, and now you will have a more smoother experience with this animation. So don't hesitate to use this decimate option to help your computer with this animation. Okay, let's go back to the main file. We have all those people talking. Then I decided to add some cars, just so we have the feeling that it's a cars meeting. And you can find some free cars online on Sketchfab or SujiTrader, for example. I did create a video for that on my channel, so I will put the link in the description. With this car, I just created a simple animation from one point to another point, so 150 frames. I just changed the position of the car. So here, if you look at the car, you can see that it's here, and then at frame 150, it's here. So all I did is to change the position of the cars and add keyframes for the position of the car. So this is just a simple animation. Here you can see a simple animation for the car. Okay, now we have the cars in the scene. For the fog, you create a cube. So Shift A, mesh and cube. So you will have this cube, raise the size like this. And because we don't need to see the faces of the cube, you come here in object and viewport display. You select wire. This is all we need for this cube. And for the fog, here you press new. You delete the principal BSDF and Shift A, principal volume. So here, volume to volume and not to surface. And let me move that in front of the camera. So here you can see the fog is really dense. For my fog, for the final scene, let me show you. I did use those values, so density of 0.08 and this color. I did change the size of this cube in order to have all the elements inside and the camera as well. Okay, and then I added a final touch. For the decoration, yep, it's here. Those animated fog, and those ones are coming from this add-on. It's a great add-on if you want to add animated fog to your scene. And it's really easy to use. I made a video for that as well. So if you want, you can check this add-on. I really think that it's adding something to the scene. Now for the camera animation, I did something very simple as well. There are only 2 keyframes. So one in the initial position and the final position is here. You can check the values of my final position. Nothing fancy. Just one thing, I did use an interpolation mode linear. Okay, so you select all the keyframes with A on your keyboard, right click. And interpolation mode, you select linear. So the camera will have the same speed from the beginning to the end of the animation. I made it a little bit more organic. I used the Shakify add-on. So here, I used the weighting effect with the influence of 1. And this is adding some natural shakiness to the animation. And it gives a more organic look. And I will put the link for the Camera Shakify add-on in the description. To install the add-on is very simple. As usual, you go in Edit, Preferences, Add-ons. And here you install from a disk. And you select the file, the zip file for the add-on. And you will have the add-on activated. And you will find this add-on in the camera section here. And now for my render settings, I will go in a render. I did use denoise and 2048 samples. And for me, for my machine, it took around 20 seconds for each frame. And for the output, I did use a PNG files with a color depth of 8. Then in DaVinci Resolve, I did add a little bit of glow and tracking for this flare. But maybe it's a little bit too much for this tutorial. But if you need me to show you how to add this flare, just tell me. So I will do a special tutorial for that. I did some simple color grading with the Film Convert add-on as usual. And if you're a pure beginner, I'm using DaVinci Resolve to deal with the PNG files. And what you need to do the first time, you come here in Media and you click on those 3 dots. And frame display mode, you select sequence. So it will recognize the sequence, the PNG files as a sequence. So it will create this animation for you. And here you can really see the value of those animated fog. You see behind here and around here. I think it's adding a lot to the scene and to the atmosphere of the scene. Yeah, that's it, guys. Don't hesitate if you have questions or you need more details on a specific part of the tutorial. I will be happy to help. Thanks for watching the video. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.